leaning into your gifts and what you are
Mm,
here to share and do and show up with in the world,
yes.
because that is leadership, and then inspiring
Yes.
others to then, to be themselves in the world or whatever it might be. But when we say yes to, our soul callings, what we feel we are here to share and do and be in the world, that to me is leadership ultimately. So it,
Mm.
doesn't have to be this grand big thing. It can be 100% yes, but just being more you and showing up, taking that
Yes.
action is so powerful.
Welcome to Sensitive Stories. This episode is for educational purposes only and is not intended as a substitute for treatment with a mental health or medical professional. Let's dive in. So, Tara, could you start off by telling us your HSP discovery story, how and when you realized that you're a highly sensitive person?
So I think I've probably always known, as a child, I was quite different from my siblings in particular. I was, definitely more sensitive. Like clothes were uncomfortable, itchy fabrics got to me, and I loved being alone a lot more than them,
Mm.
and often would stay back and read when they went to friends' houses and hung out with the other
Mm.
kids. Whereas I like to be alone and, reflect and create, paint, read, that sort of thing. But, back when I was growing up, we didn't really have a label for it as such. So yeah, it definitely took me a while to
Mm.
realize that it was, highly sensitive. And I think, yeah, it was during a sort of a women's spiritual circle when I was living in London, and someone recommended Elaine Aron's book, The Highly Sensitive Person. So, of course, that kind of snowballed from then, and I realized it had a name. I wasn't so weird, feeling all the things I felt, and I wasn't this, the things that I had felt were too much or made me fussy, all those labels that we're given when you're so sensitive to things,
Mm.
were actually a thing. And it was because, yeah, I was highly sensitive. So it was a bit of a
Mhm.
journey, but definitely something I think I've always known inside. Yeah.
Yeah, it is quite a journey, isn't it? Just those early signs that, okay, something's different about me. I like to reflect more and go inward more and do things that are different. And then to finally have the language for it is so helpful to know, okay, not alone. There's nothing wrong with me. I am still
Absolutely.
different, but there's a reason for it. Yeah, it can be quite a moment to realize that.
Absolutely. Yeah. And that there's a gift in that. That's the bit that
Yes.
really starts to shift things. Yeah.
Yes, that's the gift. Um, is when you realized that this was a trait, is that when you started to kind of connect with those gifts or realize that there are some positives in it?
Absolutely. I mean, interestingly, my business kind of first, the iteration of it was actually self-care for empaths,
Ah,
all highly
yes.
sensitive. So it was definitely through
Yes.
that realization that this is
Mhm.
a thing and I need to look after myself a bit differently. So
Yes.
it was, yeah, I started leaning into that when I first
Yes.
read.
We really
Mm.
do, don't we? Take a different approach to how we care for ourselves and considering those deep parts. And I know in your work you work a lot with HSPs and leadership roles. And I think for some folks that might seem counterintuitive. Oh, I don't think of sensitive people as leaders. I don't know if we're capable of that. In what ways are HSPs actually suited for leadership roles, would you say?
Yeah. And this is a thing. I think, the world we live in today is so chaotic, so crazy. I think HSPs are needed as leaders.
Yes.
I really, really do,
Mm-hmm.
the way we perceive the world, we're sensitive to, all the different nuances, the feelings, the, all the things going on. And so
Yes.
we can come at it from such a, an empathic, compassionate approach,
Mm.
which is so needed. Just
Yes.
that in itself, is what I feel the world needs more
Yes.
of. And so, number one, that on its own is a reason for HSPs to be
Mhm.
leaders, I think, personally. Yeah.
Absolutely, right? We are compassionate. We can see people, what they need, not just in the world, but the people that we're leading or working with. And we do notice those nuances, what problems need to be solved, getting ahead of issues before they happen, coming up with creative solutions and ideas and innovations. Yeah, there's so many parts of us that actually make great leaders. Bringing that empathy, that emotion, that depth of processing. Um, it's pretty phenomenal when you think about it.
It is. Mhm.
Yes.
And the new ideas as well, because
Yeah.
we can see what's needed and what's
Yes.
not there already. So we create these new ways, new
Yes.
programs, new offers, new little, even tiny little things in your community, whatever it is, new
Yes.
writing, things that can
Yes.
help the world in different ways because we
Mm.
can feel that and sense that
Yes.
much more. So we can do that. Yeah.
Absolutely. And you just mentioned writing. So it makes me think about what are the different ways that we could step into a leadership role that we may not think of? Because when we think of leadership, often think we think of like a manager, a politician, something like that, where you're in this very kind of typical leadership role. But are there other ways that HSPs could step into leadership roles that are more subtle?
I think it's just really, leaning into your gifts and what you are
Mm.
here to share and do and show up with in the world,
Yes.
because that is leadership, and then inspiring
Yes.
others to then, to be themselves in the world or whatever it might be. But when we say yes to, our soul callings, what we feel we are here to share and do and be in the world, that to me is leadership ultimately. So it,
Mm.
yeah, doesn't have to be this grand, big thing. It can be 100% yes, but just being more you and showing up, taking that
Yes.
action is so powerful in becoming a leader, I
That's
feel.
true. Right. Just living in our own rhythms, taking care of ourselves, modeling that for others, that's leadership too.
Absolutely.
Yeah, leaning
Absolutely.
into our gifts, our creativity, whether it be writing or teaching or activism, inside of work or outside of work. You're just kind of really opening my mind up to all the possibilities of sensitive leadership. It's pretty amazing. And as we're going into those roles, what does it mean to be an embodied leader? Because I've heard you talk about that some, and that sounds pretty dreamy. So I'd love to hear more about that.
Well, I think that's it is like a dream, but it's not, because it's the holistic encompassment of
Mm.
everything, of our whole selves in
Yes.
leadership, or as we show up, in the working world. We're so used to doing it from a headspace only, neglecting our health, and that's why there is like so many health issues in that space, in particular, mental, physical, emotional,
Mhm.
spiritual. So to me, embodied leadership is really considering the whole of ourselves, and really, definitely the body as well. Number one, first and foremost, as our vessels for how we show up in the world,
Yes.
and leaning into the gifts of our full selves. So in my work, I definitely get people to really tune into their bodies, the wisdom of their bodies, to let that lead from that space. And more often than not, because so many of us are coming from exhausting careers and ways of doing and being,
Mm.
often it's actually slowing down and resting and allowing the body to, really recover and regenerate, sort of reset all the things
Yes.
to come back to itself, and then showing up from that place, this grounded, embodied, kind of
Hmm.
old place, and taking,
Yeah.
and showing up in the world from there is so different and so powerful, compared to just doing everything up here. It's
Yes.
slower, but to me, that's what, deep
Mm.
embodied leadership is. I
Mm.
mean, and it goes beyond that, but beyond just the self. I think, it's really about considering the whole as well, the earth, the planet, the cycles,
Yes.
the seasons, because we are of the earth as well, our connection with the earth. We can't keep ignoring that, and so many of us don't, but so
Yes.
many do. So
Hmm.
to be being embodied is about that consideration as well as others, the people you work with, your communities,
Mm.
the world as a whole, the microcosm and the macrocosm ultimately is what I
Absolutely.
feel it is. Yeah.
Yeah, right. Being a part of the cycles, the communities that you're in, and not ignoring that or denying that, because those pieces are impacting you. And you talked a lot about recovery, which is so important for us as HSPs. We have to have space for recovery and for reflection and going inward. What does body recovery look like for you personally?
Me, okay. So,
Yeah.
and it's evolved, and I think it
If you,
evolves all the time,
mm-hmm. Yeah, it does.
especially the phases we're at in our lives. And I have got quite a few hormonal things going on right now. I'm kind of
Mm-hmm.
perimenopausal.
Sure.
So definitely having to make some shifts and changes in
Yes.
how I recover in my body, requiring a lot more than
Mm-hmm.
even in the last 5 years. It's changed dramatically for
Sure.
me. So I mean, I have to get into nature daily. That's a part of my, well-being, but also inspiration for work too.
Mm-hmm.
But so daily walks in nature, a lot of yin yoga is another one for me.
Mm-hmm.
That one is a huge, yeah, just, I mean, any somatic kind of practices as
Yeah.
well. But yin yoga and walking in the forest are my two
Mm-hmm.
current kind of non-negotiables at the
Yes.
moment to really recover. Honestly, food is another one too.
Oh, yeah.
the older I get, the more sensitive to foods I become. I've had to
Yes.
cut out quite a lot of things over the years, and it sort of just
Mhm.
seems to get more and more that affect me so much more. So,
Yes.
before I could have a cup of coffee, now it's like half a cup
Oh,
from
yes.
time to time for the month. And
Yes.
it's like, oh, unless if I know if I have too much, I'll be wired and
Yes.
it won't be as much in my body. So yeah, just those are the kind of things I kind of
Mm,
keep up
mhm.
of for myself regularly. Yeah.
Yeah, really attuning into what your body's needing and adjusting that as you go. Yeah. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Just slowing down and using nature, using somatic practices to reconnect, to ground. Yeah, so important.
Exactly.
Yeah,
And it seems counterintuitive, the restful stuff, but
right.
it energizes me the most. Honestly, it really,
Ah,
it's
yes.
the that gives me the most energy, actually, not the kind of high intensity. But that's me personally. We're all different. It's about, yeah,
Right.
like you said, awareness of your own body and what your needs are.
Mm-hmm. That's such a good reminder that for you, that's getting into nature, that's doing yoga, that's paying attention to what you're eating. But for someone else, it could be something totally different.
Completely.
Yeah.
Completely.
And I'm curious how spirituality comes into this as well, if you'd like to share about that.
Yeah, no, of course. So I think that my connection to my spirituality definitely comes from movement and being in nature.
Mm-hmm.
100%, yes. I mean,
Yes.
so when it comes to spirituality, I connect with like things like the soul of my business, the
Ooh,
soul energies of each individual offer within it. The books I write have energies.
yes.
So I use spirituality very intertwined with my kind of myself, but also my work. So it's kind of a
Mm-hmm.
flowing movement with
Yes.
me and what I do and how I show up. And I don't do one without the other.
Mm.
So I use it to support me and my well-being, but then I use it to bring into my work as well. So it's that's the kind of the holistic piece as well, I think.
Mm-hmm.
That yeah.
I've never heard that phrase, soul of my business, and it feels so good. Just speaking of your
Yeah.
books, would you mind showing folks the books that you have to
Yeah,
offer?
of course. Yeah, sure, sure.
I know you
Yeah,
have quite a
absolutely.
few.
So yeah. Okay. So
And
we have
then
the first one here, which is embodied, which
embodied. Love that.
is yeah, you can't use the self-care guide for sensitive souls.
Mm.
Just kind of at the beginning of my journey and really learning to take care of myself in that way. And
Yes.
it includes a
Mm-hmm.
number of spiritual and physical, mental, emotional practices in there that
Mm.
supported
Wonderful.
and still support me. Then I kind of switched gears a bit.
Embodied
This one's embodied
business.
business. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And this
That's
is all about
beautiful.
some of the kind of like looking at the chakras actually in the body. So this is
Oh.
spirituality comes in. But in
Mm-hmm.
terms of the business, so what blocks you might be holding that could be stopping you from showing up in the ways that
Oh.
you want to? So maybe,
Yes.
and I kind of tied them and linked them to chakras. Of
Mm-hmm.
course, you might feel it in a different chakra. Nothing is prescriptive. It's just an
Sure.
idea. But
Yes.
so things like taking action, feeling worthy,
Yes.
boundaries, some of the
Yes.
things that can come up on the entrepreneurial or business
Mm.
journey,
Mm-hmm.
I've kind of linked them into a chakra and given tools, tips, prompts, meditations, etc., to support you to
I
move
love
through
that.
them and so that you can help yourself to show up as you're
I
being
love
called
that.
to in the world.
I
Yeah,
love that. Just going deeper into those internal blockages, the spiritual block.
exactly. The
Yes, yes, we
energetic,
need
the
that.
bringing
The
that masculine.
energetic. Yes,
Mhm.
we need
Yeah,
that so
that's
much. Yeah.
I think so. Yeah, I spend a
Yeah.
lot of time in here. Definitely, I have done.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Beautiful.
absolutely. This next one is actually this one's actually more on. This is the third one. So this is actually it's called embodied creation,
Beautiful.
and it is about creating with the soul of an offer, the soul of
Mm.
something, as seeing it as an energy to co-create
Yes.
with ultimately.
Yes.
But it also really invites you to tune into the earth and
Mm.
what she's calling for, any guidance in terms of what creations are needed on the planet ultimately
Yes.
as well. So it kind of is trying to bring in this more holistic, embodied, wider approach to it that
Yes.
can the whole as well.
Oh, that's
Yeah.
so beautiful. So it feels
And
like
then
you're giving us a roadmap for connecting to self, but then bringing that full embodied self into business and then deciding what to put out into the world.
yeah, I love that. That's a great way of seeing it, definitely. I sometimes
Just
assume
seeing
these things, so it's lovely just to see that
just seeing this
reflected.
unfolding, kind of this journey that's going through to self and then outward to others. Yeah, that's really helpful.
Yeah,
Yeah, and then you
absolutely.
have one more book as well,
Yes,
right?
yes, yeah. So embodied wealth.
Embodied Wealth. Beautiful. What
Embodied.
is this one
Yeah.
about?
It's actually about creating. wealth on your terms. So wealth
Mm.
being, what does
Wellness.
wealth mean to you? Is it, free time freedom? Is it
Mm.
nutrition, nourishment, energy? What does
Yes.
wealth mean to you? So
Right.
it's creating a life on those terms for yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And also I trained in sort of color psychology, a system called color mirrors, which is a spiritual color system. And it also, so it includes some guidance when you look at certain colors you're drawn to, what certain ones
Yes.
you might be repelled by. It
Mm.
can actually say things about what needs to be healed within, as well as give you guidance if you're open to it. So
That's
this
amazing.
one includes some more stuff on that to help you align with, maybe your
Okay.
soul callings and what you're here to do or want to do next, even.
Oh, I love
Yeah.
that. So just having these kind of systems or tools to help you uncover what you're needing, what you want to elevate or guide you.
Exactly, because
Yes, I
basically
love that.
color we
I love that.
colors, we react to color in our bodies, like we have
Yes.
such a visceral response to it that
Yes.
it can get tapped past the conscious brain into the subconscious. So when we are like drawn to certain colors, color is actually a system of bottles, colored bottles with
Hmm.
oils in. So you look at them and you
Okay.
sort of you can look at them online as well. You
Mm-hmm.
can see people drawn to, repel by, or
Hmm.
you can, so because the body's telling you ultimately. And so maybe
Right.
there's, so for example, let's say purple. Like I loved
Yes.
purple for a long, long time. I was addicted to it.
Yeah.
I'd literally enough purple. And so, and it can be about
Yes.
being spiritual, but I mean,
Mm-hmm.
there's a in it, but also about grief, deep grief. And actually, I
Mm.
fell in love with purple when my mom passed away as a child, and I literally almost went from loving red to the next overnight, loving purple, and it
Immediate.
was like a blanket of cover, like a purple
Yes.
blanket. I just wanted purple, and
Oh.
it was quite interesting to tie that together because it's
Yes.
quite a significant moment, and quite a significant change. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah, you can just bypass the conscious, and it can give deeper understanding of why you've done certain things, or maybe
Right.
what you're reading as well. Yeah,
Right. What's happening internally for you that you may not be putting those pieces together or where you're wanting to go. Okay, I'm really drawn to this particular color. And I've had that too happen in my own life where very quickly I'll be drawn to one color and then the next, moving
interesting.
right on. And now I'm curious to see
I'm
what
curious.
that
Is there a color you're
symbolism.
drawn to? Yeah, is there a color you're drawn
Well,
to now?
for years it was blue, and then
Okay,
it's moved more to purple, which is
interesting.
interesting.
Okay.
But I don't
So
know.
blue.
I'm starting to kind of pull away from purple. I feel like there's something that might come next. I don't know what it is yet, though.
Okay. Okay. So you can also relate it to the chakras as well. So blue is your throat, communication,
Oh,
speaking.
yes, that makes
It's
sense.
yeah,
Yeah,
and then the purple is up here. I mean, you've got your third eye,
yeah,
middle purple on the crown, of course. So yeah,
right.
the deep purpose, deep, connected to
Yes,
all
that makes
spirituality. I mean,
sense.
it can be there's sort of positives and negatives, for both
Yes.
colors. I'm sorry for all colors, but
Mm-hmm.
it's what resonates, and it's just a different tool, as you said, to navigate and help share deeper
Absolutely.
layers of understanding. It's always fun for
I,
me.
for me too, I love to have those kind of ways inward to support that deep kind of introspection that I always want to do as an HSP.
Exactly. I think
Oh, I
that's what the
love it
HSP
so much.
definitely is, that like wanting to understand, and all the,
Yes,
and definitely hugely.
definitely. Yeah, so that book could be a great way for folks to kind of get an idea of that practice and
Yeah.
yeah, see what
Yeah.
comes through. So once we're doing this work, we're going inward, we're taking care of our bodies, we're recovering, we're connecting with those deeper parts of our experience. And we have this little intuitive hit to this dream, this idea. How can we start to bring it into the world, into action? What does that process look like?
So I think for me personally, it's when you get that intuitive hit, it's nurturing in that to begin with. Absolutely. So I mean, I do it through connecting with the soul of it, the essence of it. So seeing it as an energy. And
Mm.
so, for example, I've brought in, let's say, an offering in my business by connecting to the energy. I saw this vision of, and I'm quite a visual person. So you might just feel it, you might know it, you might even hear it.
Mm.
I sort of saw this, this like, actually, it was a spaceship coming over the mountain. And I connected to this vision every day. And basically, the spaceship landed. And it then it sort of grew roots and started to grow into a tree. And then the tree developed these like colored pods, which were chakra
Mhm.
colors eventually. I mean,
Mhm.
this happened about over the space of about 15, 20 days. And then I realized it was actually an offering. And it's a course I offer, basically helping people um, look at blocks with the chakra in each chakra. But
Yes.
it was really nurturing and connecting to that energy ultimately for me until it was ready to share with me, or I could intuitively feel what was needed, what was coming from it. But so I
Mhm.
did it, that's how I work with it. And so then I was literally given, the program outline, the dates, etc., the times, what it was going to be, the structure,
Mhm.
ultimately the practical parts.
Right.
And that's how I did it. So that's one way of doing it.
I love that. And how are these the visualizations coming to you? Is it in meditation, when you're on a nature walk, when you're doing your yoga? When do you connect to these?
I mean, it can be any and all of those,
All of the
honestly.
times, yeah.
Yeah.
So being
And it
receptive.
changes. Yeah. And you
Yes.
can figure out what works for you. So with
Hmm.
that one particularly, I was sitting and just taking myself in and connecting back to what I'd seen the day before. No, took some notes so I could remember if I needed. But for now, like, I'm writing my next book and it is coming to me only through walking in the forest. And I clear my chakras as I walk in a moving meditation. And then I ask the book energy to join me. It does
Mm,
some days I don't feel it. And
sure.
I can feel the energy of it and I talk to it a bit. I kind of feel it moving in my body. It's very embodied, as my books are
Hmm.
all called embodied, of course.
Yes.
Then it's taking a lot longer, this one. It's
Hmm.
already been a year as of time of recording
Sure.
this. So yeah, it's slowly working its way through and I'm hearing it, writing notes, recording
Mm,
things as I go, and it will eventually turn into a book, but that's how it's
yes.
kind of coming to me. So
I
there's no
appreciate
right way or
that.
wrong way to do this. It's how
Yeah.
you connect and
Yeah.
and experiment. There's ways to experiment and play with it.
Mm.
Definitely. Yeah.
And it sounds like you start with inviting something in,
Yes.
inviting the
Absolutely.
messages for the book, or just maybe being receptive. I would like to connect with an idea. Is that true?
Yes, absolutely. I mean, I have free meditations as well, which,
Oh, wonderful.
to even guide people in to start with, just to begin, because,
Yes.
meditation doesn't work for everyone. So yeah, maybe
Mm-mm.
walk with it, do yoga, and yeah, invite it in and just
Yes.
trust what comes to you. Maybe in the
Yes.
beginning, you feel a bit of cold energy, and then it's like, okay, that was a bit different.
Yeah.
Let's try again the next day. And it's just like like a, like when you're connected to intuition, it's, you like trust or a muscle, you have to keep doing it. And then the
Mm-hmm.
stronger it gets. And so, I've been doing this for quite a few years now. So it definitely has shifted and changed and evolved,
Sure.
and so it's gotten easier for me in some
Yes.
ways, but not
Yes.
always. Like,
Mm.
I've had times, even the last 10 years, where I've had nothing. And that's
Mm.
intuition in itself. To do nothing. So
Ah, right. Do not be alarmed if there's nothing. That could just be a time to say it's time to pause, to recover.
exactly. And that's what it has been. Yeah. And I pushed
Yes.
through often. And then
Yeah.
nothing has come through it. So
Right.
it's nice to learn that the hard way too.
Yes, not to force it, but just to be in that stillness. And it sounds like, after we're inviting, we're kind of trusting the idea, but also trusting when there's pause, like really letting yourself be in the process, whatever the process is, even when it's not what you wanted.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Letting go of that. That's a big one for
Yes.
me and have learned.
Yes. So
Yeah.
let's say we are getting those ideas are coming through, and sometimes it can be quite a lot to sit with. It can be overwhelming, not only processing the information or the intuitive gifts that come through, but also taking the action. So, how do you find that balance between recovery and putting something into the world? How do we deal with that balance as
Yeah.
HSPs?
I'm still learning this one. I mean, I don't
Sure,
think
I
there's,
think we all
yeah.
are. Yeah.
So like, yeah, totally. If someone knows, please share it with me as well. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's a combination of things, and
Yeah.
isn't it? It's that constant
Right.
awareness, self-awareness,
Mm-hmm.
and I think really slowing down more than anything to check
Yeah.
in with yourself.
Yeah.
And it's easier said than done. And I
Yes.
trust me, I'm quite a fast person that wants to get stuff done. So it's not the easiest for me either. But then I tend to burn out. So yeah,
Yeah.
but I know it's like I'm learning. It's still
Mm-hmm.
really slowing down, checking in, and I think taking more time than you think sometimes,
Hmm.
is needed to really feel what the idea is, and as I said,
Yes.
nurture it, hold it to yourself for a while, because it's so easy to want to get it out in the world and share it for some people,
Yes.
not everyone, but
Yeah.
holding it and being with it will help it
Yeah.
to mature, to grow,
Uh,
to root, etc. And then
Absolutely.
you'll know more. Well, one, you'll be looking after yourself as well, because you can check
Yes.
in, and then you'll know when to take action. I mean, actually,
Yeah.
one thing I do with checking in with the soul of it when you connect to it, could be connecting to your intuition as well, is, asking, what do I need to nurture myself, to support myself as a co-creator? And sometimes even the guidance might just be, which I've had for some other offers, is just look after yourself. Like, I've actually been guided to do fasts or cleanses, for example, sometimes for maybe 2 weeks, or I did a 30-day juice cleanse at one point, and that was the guidance, not to do anything on the offer, but I needed to support me to be a better, stronger vessel to bring it through when it was time. So there's a mix of things you can do. Does that kind of make sense from what I've said?
Absolutely does, because you're right, there can be this rush. I have to get this out right away. But is it supporting you, or is it depleting you, right, in that process? And it's, I mean, yeah, well,
sorry.
yeah. No, it just reminds me that this is what we need to do in every aspect of life, not just when we're putting something out or we're stepping into a leadership role, but taking care of ourselves first, right? Nurturing ourselves before we're then giving to others. Such a good reminder. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Start from that place. It's so
Yes.
different.
You said something which was, I'm a co-creator. And I'm
Yes.
wondering if you could say more about that.
So I see it as when you are connecting to the energy, the soul, the spirit of whatever it is, it's in co-creation with you. So you are working with it. It's not, yes, you're the physical part bringing it through and doing that. But if you really see it, it's that part, whatever you want to call it, as your, it's like having a business partner ultimately, or, a teammate, a CEO or something. So you really see it as that. There's something about that kind of acceptance that also makes it more powerful as well, in that being working together, co-creating. Yeah.
Right. I love that, because you're not in this alone. And you can
Exactly.
lean on the energy that's coming through your intuition, your spiritual practice, your connection to earth, to whatever it is that is guiding you. Yeah, that feels, I know, comforting.
It is. It's so comforting, especially when you work alone, and solopreneurs, or
Yes.
so many of us are,
Right.
especially in the beginning days. And so having that,
Yes.
such a sort of a life-changing moment for me in my business, definitely. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
because I could turn to something or someone when I had no one else. Yeah.
Right, exactly. Right. Was there a point in your business before this where you felt like you were alone and you were kind of floating without that anchor? Yes.
Absolutely. I mean,
Yeah.
I've always kind of used my intuition in business from quite an early stage, but it was
Mm-hmm.
different. That was when I did more of the, when my intuition said nothing, pushing ahead, still trying to put things out there, going, back to how I'd been taught business. Doesn't matter, and there's nothing wrong with some of these things, but they didn't work
Mm-hmm.
for me. This is who I
Yes.
am. It didn't work for me to keep
That's
pushing,
it.
trying things just for the sake of doing, etc., which is
Right.
it didn't work for me. Yeah. So
Yeah, it sounds like a straight road to burnout, honestly.
completely,
Yeah.
completely.
What I think you shared about that potentially, that you've been through a burnout phase.
I've definitely had periods where, I've had to
Yeah.
take some because it was too much and
Yeah.
too intense,
Right.
definitely. And
Yes.
the working world did that to me a bit, definitely as well. So,
Yes, it
but
does.
then the thing is not carrying those bad habits and, bad ways of doing into your own
Mm-hmm.
business, which is
Mm-hmm.
the really easy to do ultimately.
Mm-hmm. It really is. Especially when we're looking and seeing how everyone else is doing it, or we feel like we have to keep up with a certain pace. It's like
Exactly.
we can slow down, we can have pauses in between. We can take time to reflect and connect inward, connect to something beyond ourselves.
And
Yeah.
honestly, I think this is the greatest challenge of it.
Mm.
Honestly,
Mm.
especially as an HSP too, we
Yeah.
all need to relearn how to do this, because
Yeah.
we're not conditioned to. I mean, still now I struggle with this, in all honesty, not feeling like I should be doing more and letting myself slow down,
Yes.
but I know the power in that. Yet I
Yes.
still have conditioning that's telling me that you're not doing something today. What's going on? Oh my
Mm.
goodness, those stories run deep. That conditioning runs deep.
They run so
Yeah.
deep, don't they? All the way back to when, well, I'm gonna just guess when you were a child and seeing your siblings go out and
I mean,
socialize when you
and,
just wanted to
yeah,
read.
but it's societal, ancestral, condition,
It's so
cultural
deep,
thing. We
right?
see it everywhere, even in even in your day-to-day life, being different to those going out with jobs, who have to work 12-hour days or whatever they're doing, and you're not doing that. It's even that it's in itself was a big can still be triggering sometimes to make me think I'm not doing enough because of we've grown up, I think.
Absolutely. Working for myself, and my wife goes out to work every day, and I think, am I doing enough?
Exactly. Totally get that.
Yeah, but we're still doing a lot, and a lot is subjective. Enough is subjective.
Well, this is it exactly, and
Yeah.
this is why I think it's the hardest thing. It's learning to trust what you are doing, how you show up, what you do, who you are even.
Yes.
We also, we could get into so many other topics, but it's like are placing our value in what we do as well, which is a whole other piece that's so integrally tied, I think, in our society. And so, a lot of unlearning.
A lot of unlearning. And trust seems like a theme today. Trusting yourself, trusting your process, trusting that you're doing enough. You don't have to
Absolutely.
push. You don't have to do what everyone else is doing. Yeah.
And that trust your way. Because we're here to, I really do believe we're here to lead a different way as highly sensitives. That's part of our gifts as well. We are here to lead a different way that is slower, more cyclical, with rhythmic, whether it's our inner cycles or the cycles around us of the, the earth, the sun, etc. Yeah, we're here to do it a different way. And we have to lead that. It starts here, trusting that within.
Yes, absolutely. And just thinking about what you said at the beginning of our conversation, which is, that self-care, that modeling, leadership. Important that is for everybody, not just fellow HSPs.
Exactly. Yeah.
Right. Especially in the world that we live in.
Totally is. And so, one of my next sort of intuitive guidance pieces, or, where I'm being guided to go is, as well as the work I'm currently doing, is to start bringing what I'm doing into the corporate world. And so going back there, which is scary, but it's time. It's been nudging at me intuitively for a few years now, and I've pushed it down, but it's time. But I think that's it. We need to first feel good, embodied in ourselves and strong in a belief and, doing it for ourselves. And then take it if we're being called to. Some people will, some won't. But I do believe that some of us are here to go back into that system because we've come from it.
Yes.
As with what we've embodied and become and who we are today, to start to shift things. I truly feel that intuitively. Yeah.
Yes, right. Take a different model back in there and shake things up a bit.
Exactly.
Yeah. Oh, I love that. But we can be, again, that's another way to lead, right? And to
Absolutely.
take in a different point of view.
And work with leaders. That's, part of it. I think when you work with the leaders,
that's it, right? It's that advisor role that we are destined to be. Yes, exactly. I love this.
I love that.
Well, Tara, is there anything else that anything we didn't touch on that you feel is important to share before we start to wrap up? Anything that we didn't get to?
No, I think just to reiterate, I think, sensitivity is a gift. I really do. And with, our unique way of experiencing the world, how, through our sensitivities, even though it can be so hard at times and so challenging, it is so needed. And I really, truly believe that. And so if you're feeling called in some way to lead with your sensitivity, to bring how you experience the world out in some way, please do. That's all.
Yes, please do. We need your voices. We need your leadership. And folks can start stepping into that role in very small ways in their own lives. I love that so much. So inspiring.
I love it.
So, Tara, thank you so much for sharing this guidepost, this vision for how we can step into our calling, our purpose. We can reconnect with ourselves. And I'll definitely share all of you have a lot of wonderful resources. I'll share all those in the show notes, your website, your books, your Oracle deck. You also work with folks one-to-one. Could you say a little bit more about that? Yeah.
Yeah, no, I love the one-to-one work, because you get to go deep.
Yes.
So yeah, absolutely. If you are feeling called and would like support to go deeper in your work, or, your next level, or bring more of yourself into your work, trust yourself more, and you're sensitive. I love working one-to-one. So, I'd be super open to obviously exploration, conversations, all that kind of thing. But yeah.
I love that. And who should reach out to you one-to-one? So who do you love to work best with?
Yeah, I mean, sensitive leaders. I mean, it's a mix of entrepreneurs, but also leaders
Mm-hmm.
in businesses as well, who, you know, are
Mm-hmm.
sensitive and are pushing against the system that does not cater to their needs. It's a
Yes.
mix of the two. I just sensitive leaders is, you know who
Yeah.
you are. I think
You
when you're
know who you
sensitive,
are.
you just know who you are. You'll resonate with this sort of different intuitive way of incorporating
Yes.
these, you know, the spiritual parts, embodiment parts into your work, and knowing that that is will give you such a rich way of doing business that feels good as well. It's a different way.
Mm-hmm. That's it.
So
Yeah.
that
And
resonates.
just check in with your intuition. If you're being called to work with Tara, it's right.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, that's